Old Sweet Song, presented by Still a Frog.
The place was packed, partly because of a violent summer storm. Lightning flashed white, rapid fire just outside the glass doors, and the thunder was immediate, simultaneous really, and shockingly loud. And the downpour was torrential. There was something epic, or perhaps even biblical about it, the wild, awesome power of nature. It seemed oddly appropriate to her that it was Sunday, probably all those years of Catholic school, and that had been even more the case when the power had gone off briefly. The cell phones had come out, and it had reminded her of a candlelight service. People pushing overburdened shopping carts. A few ambitious types were pushing one and pulling another to check out aisles that for a moment seemed vaguely like little altars, tiny places of momentary worship where you solemnly gave thanks for the bounty of Costco with an offering from your debit card. She smiled to herself and thought, okay, maybe I'm carrying this Catholic school memory thing a little too far. But that wasn't what she was really watching. She was trying to act nonchalant and doing a fair job of it, but her attention was focused, laser-like, on a little piano roadshow next to the book tables. The young, awkward, short, slightly pudgy salesboy, actually, with the unfortunate haircut, was obviously ill-suited for his given task of buttonholing passers-by. But this particular customer clearly put the kid at ease, and it was kind of a nice thing to see. The customer sat down. She watched his hands as he began to play, and she immediately turned to her daughter and said, "Go ask him if he knows Georgia." Her daughter got a puzzled look. It was like seeing herself 2 decades ago. She said, "Please, go do it for me." And with her best 22-year-old eye-rolling obligatory, "Whatever, Mom," expression, followed by a quick, affectionate smile, the girl did. With the opening notes, she knew he was the one. She thought she'd recognized him from the pictures that she'd seen of him on the dating site. She was almost sure when she'd seen his hands on the piano keys, but his first chord confirmed it. He'd written to her 6 months before, and his email was hilarious. She had described herself correctly as a teacher and part-time fashion designer who ate organic food, avoided the genetically modified stuff, liked browsing flea markets, and was looking for a man who didn't take himself too serious. In his first message, he wrote that if he recalled his chemistry courses correctly, organic meant containing carbon, which all edible things did, along with some things that were not edible, like gasoline, for example, and that all organisms were constantly being modified genetically as a result of normal reproduction, so would it be all right with her if he ate what he liked? He added that, in his opinion, browsing a flea market would be roughly akin to some form of diabolical torture. And he closed with this: "You being a teacher, would it be okay if I didn't take myself too seriously?" With the LY at the end underlined in bold, italicized capital letters. And that was followed by, "Just kidding," and then 7 words. "But you had me with your smile." She looked up his first 2 points about organic and genetically modified and got annoyed when she saw that he was right. But she still had to laugh. She did not, however, acknowledge doing either one, the looking up or laughing. Confession might be good for the soul, but as a romantic strategy, it was lacking. And this was romance, not church. She began with a little ego-stroking. He was, after all, a man. "Your note made me laugh. You can spell and write." Praise God. Followed by a little smiling face. "You seem almost gem-like." Assuming that you're not on parole, currently incarcerated, in rehab, jobless, carless, homeless, toothless, 5 feet tall instead of 6, or married. His response was gracious. "I can think a few things more rewarding than making a pretty woman laugh. And no, I am none of those things." She wrote back immediately, "Well, I'm researching the LY thing." LOL. He answered almost instantaneously, "Seriously," with the LY once again underlined in bold, capital italics. It was perfect. So she sent him 4 words. "You're so much fun." Within minutes, he'd written again. "Thank you. I'm glad you feel that way because I have other questions. With regard to being emotionally available, do you mean all the time?" And about that teacher clothing designer profession, do you design clothes for teachers or teach people how to design their own clothes? And have you ever thought that either one might be a lost cause? Also, about you seeking a man with a strong desire to remain fit. Is desire a requirement? Must I actually want to exercise? Must I complete the regimen joyously? Or is just doing it enough? She loved that last message, but she'd never responded to it specifically. She'd had a first date that night. It had gone well, and she was looking forward to a second one. The guy had a more subdued sense of humor, but he was closer, in terms of both geography and age. 15 minutes away instead of an hour, and 2 years older instead of 12. So she wrote him the following morning to say that she was going to see if things would work out with the nearby guy, and that if they didn't, she was thinking about going back to Atlanta. It was the time of year when she really missed it. He sent her a nice thank you note and a video, 60 seconds of hands playing Georgia. Hands she now knew for sure were his. So she walked up behind him and said, "Remember me?" He stood as he turned. Really was over 6 feet, and his eyes said it all. They spoke briefly. She introduced him to her daughter, and they talked a little more, even though she was already late leaving. And as soon as they were out of earshot, she heard the question, "Mom, he's the one from Christmas, isn't he?" "Yes." "Well, are you going out with him, finally?" "Yes." "When?" "Tonight."